you're now in the portal and it's time to add a quotation. It's far more likely that you're going to be using a tablet or your phone to create a quote than you would a laptop. So if you come to the trade portal here, you can see the quotations listed in front of you. Simply click Add Quotation and select domestic or commercial quote. The only difference between domestic and commercial is that commercial quotes add you to allow units, so you can have multiple apartment types or multiple house types. This is just going to be a standard domestic quote. Once you've added this quote, you'll see your details on the right and you'll see the quote details on the left. First of all, if you go to the settings button, which is just here, this will open the settings for the property specification, and here you can select a number of different options from the drop down. Currently, you've got 3 flow temperature options. You've got the high flow temperature off a boiler, a medium flow temperature, which might be a weather compensation at 55, or a low flow temp from a heat pump at 45. For this example, I'm going to choose heat pump. You can also select typical insulation levels. We just have 3 tiers here because we're not actually doing a specific heat loss calculation. We're just basically giving a rough estimation of how much heat is going to be required on average. And then you can also select your flow rate, and this will help calculate the resistance of the system so that you can size the pump accordingly. So the first thing you're going to do is click Add Room. This is going to bring up a little pop-up and you can name the room. So for example, we'll go bedroom 1. And you can also put a small room description in, so let's say like pink room, for example. And then you've got the profile and capping options. So back when we talked about the products themselves, we said profile and capping is selected first. If you change your mind later in the quote, you can just flip the whole room on a drop-down option. For this instance, we'll choose Deco BN. The capping will be no capping. The colour will be cricket white. It then asks you for a room size. Now, you don't need to put this in, it's an optional field. But if you took a typical room size, let's say that this bedroom is 3 by 4 meters, what that'll do is it'll then publish all of your heat output data. What that will do is it'll then publish all your heat output data on a square meter rate. So just add that. Now you can see here on a step-by-step stage of how you specify a ThermaSkirt system. So you'd start off here by putting the wall lengths in. So if I select this wall length option and put the 3 sides of the bedroom in, so we have a 3 meter piece, we have a 4 meter piece, and we have another 3 meter piece. That gives us 10 meters of skirting. Now you can see on the left-hand side, it shows us the heat output. It's 590 watts in that room. So the average watts per square meter is around 50 watts. And it also gives us the pressure drop. The pressure drop will climb as we add more components to it. So we've got 10 meters of heated skirting. And then you've got 2 dummy skirting options. So you've got dummy skirting in MDF and you've got dummy skirting in aluminium. Dummy MDF is the most popular option because of cost. It's the cheapest way to match the ThermaSkirt in around the rest of the room. The dummy MDF comes primed, not painted, so it does need to be painted once it's been installed. For those people who want a pre-painted skirting on the unheated walls, then choose dummy aluminium, but for this example, I'm going to choose dummy MDF, and for this room we'll need 4 meters. So we're on to our feed kits. If you recall earlier in the training, we discussed a TRV and a non-TRV feed and return kit. As default, a manual TRV will be selected. If you want a non-TRV feed and return kit with no controls, uncheck that box. That's basically just going to give you a standard non-TRV feed and return kit, no thermostats, no valves or anything. So this is what you would choose if you're plumbing it all back to a manifold. If you want hardwired digital controls, that's going to give you a thermostat and a 2-port valve. And if you select wireless digital controls, that's going to give you a thermostat, a 2-port valve, and if you select wireless digital controls, that's going to give you a thermostat, a 2-port valve, and a wireless receiver. For this example, I'm going to choose manual TRV valve, and when you press this drop down arrow here, you can then see the clockwise, anti-clockwise, and bidirectional feeds. This bedroom, the skirting will be running from left to right, so I'm going to choose 1 clockwise feed, and then we're on to the corners. So you can see that initially you've just given an internal 90. So you can see initially that you're given two options, internal 90s and external 90s. This room only requires two internal 90s. The reason that the quoting tool ends there without selecting more, the reason that there's a more options button is because up until that point, you can pretty much do 80% of rooms without any of the additional options. If I do click that more options button, you can now see that I've got internal 135 flexi kits, external 135 flexi kits, inline connection sets, and of course our unheated and heated thresholds. In addition, there's also a curved skirting option if you're doing a curved bay, and there's also extended and special covers. The extended and special covers bit is there for situations when you know you're going to need a special cover, but you don't specifically know the dimensions of it at the moment. You can basically build that into the quotation as a cursory amount and then send us the dimensions once you've completed the install. For this bedroom, we don't need any additional components, so we close that and that bedroom's complete. The quoting system works on an accordion system, so you can expand and collapse every single room, and you can see a simple room summary or a detailed breakdown of all the components. The next room we're going to add is a little bit more complicated, and that's the lounge. I'm going to put the room size in at 7 meters by 3.5. And we're in. Now, because this is a ground floor room, it's bigger, and we're still on a low temperature from an air source heat pump, I'm actually going to change from the BM2 to the BM3. I select the drop down and I select BM3, and it will update all of the prices automatically. And we start adding the skirting lengths again. So 7 meters, and now you see when I went to add 7, it automatically puts in 6. And that's because 6 meters is the longest length of skirting that we do. So if you have got an unbroken wall that's longer than 6 meters, ideally what you want to do is sort of split that wall length in half and add those wall lengths individually. So I'll add 3.5 and another 3.5 for the 7 meter. It's also worth noting that I'll need to allow for an inline coupling kit for this wall as well. The back wall is 3.5 meters, and we have another wall up to the doorway which is 4. So that's giving me 1.26 kilowatts or 4,300 BTUs, which again, we're hitting a wattage output per square meter of just over 50 watts a square meter. The dummy MDF required is going to be 3 meters, and the feed and return kit is going to be a bidirectional. There's 3 internal corners, 1 external corner, and a threshold kit. So let's do a heated threshold kit. If you recall earlier, I mentioned that for a heated threshold kit, you need a POS kit and a THEC. If you do the drop down on thresholds, you'll see door obstacle system and patio obstacle system. So I'm going to select 1 patio obstacle system. And on the heated threshold drop down, you can actually put the opening size in. When you add the opening, it also automatically adds the kit required. I'm going to add this opening at 2.3 meters. Now you'll note that when I add the heated threshold, it also increases the overall heat output of the system. So the threshold is added in at a later stage once you've gone all the way down the list. If I close that option there, you'll see that I've now got my 2 rooms, the lounge and bedroom 1. The final thing to note is that in the miscellaneous products category, there's 2 parts added. One is the cleanser and inhibitor kit, and the other is the installation and spare parts kit. I'd always recommend leaving the installation and spare parts kit in there, and that's because that includes brackets, a deburring tool, a pick tool, as well as some spare elbows and spare clips. The cleanser and inhibitor is something that we add because you can't always guarantee when a DIYer buys the ThermaSkirt system that they're going to have a look at the water quality. If you're planning on treating the water, flushing the system, or redosing it anyway, then you can remove that from the kit. You simply press the X button and it will come out. For the purposes of this exercise, I'm going to leave it in there. You'll notice on the quotation that you've got a little terms box, which is DS2. So if I go to export this quotation, I simply press the export button and choose full breakdown, and it will automatically generate a PDF showing each room on an individual basis and what components you get in each kit. So you'll see here I've got bedroom 1 and the lounge with a total summary at the bottom, including the overall heat output and meters of skirting. Finally, if you wanted to add a technical data summary to include with your handover pack, click the technical data button and it will then generate a PDF which highlights the overall length of skirting, the control option, the flow temperatures, the heat output, the water volume and the flow resistance. This will help you size the pumps and also help you understand exactly what the ThermaSkirt system is going to require. We've got multiple videos on adding quotations and doing ThermaSkirt designs, and they can be found in the resources section of our website. If you want to go and check that out for a more in-depth look, then please do that. But this pretty much covers the basics. If you've got any feedback on how we can improve our quoting system for use on site, then of course email us at training@discreteheat.co.uk.